Test, test. Dawson, you can hear me great. Everybody in the chat, get some love. Hopefully you guys can hear me great. We'll get started here in a couple minutes. Let's go, Mark Mann. The heart and soul, some say, of the grit. Jordan Furby, let's go. Turn up. Let's get dubs. College dropout. Love that. Cool. So, chat, feel free to be active. Especially, we're going to try to leave a big chunk of change at the end of the session, seminar, whatever you want to call it, for Q&A. And so that's where you'll put your questions in. We're going to go through a bunch. Super excited for it. In general, really excited about this. Before we kind of jump in, first and foremost, got to give some love to the team here. Behind the cameras, got the headphones on. Dawson Anderson, Tanner Call. I always want to call you Tanner Hall, by the way. He was the skier. Yeah, he's the guy. We got Danny Facer, Danny Blue Skies, many of you guys know and love. I've done a phenomenal job with the setup. We're really excited. Hopefully this is the worst we ever do, and hopefully it only gets better. I've done a lot of different things. This is the first, usually when I do this training, it's in front of people and it's a bit of back and forth. And so this will be new to me. Hopefully it's engaging. We've done this for a lot of years, not just sales, but making money and help people be smart with their money. Both myself, try to be smart with my money, and then help as many people as we can. I do this meeting, we call it a whiteboard meeting, with Zach Seeger with a lot of guys after every single summer, where we go through, we talk about finances, cash flow, what are our goals, what are our investments, and we talk it through. Obviously, as we continue to scale, it's just harder for me to do one-on-one with everybody. And so we got a lot of feedback and came up with this, which is the wealth equation. And so we'll kind of start to jump in. First and foremost, as you would expect, massive disclaimer. Massive. I'm not a professional advisor. I'm not a professional finance guy. I studied finance at BYU, but I don't have my Series 7, 63, anything. And so none of this is financial advice. This is my thoughts and opinions. Hopefully it's helpful. It's certainly been helpful to a lot of people close to me and those that I've worked with. And I've done well, both in making money and in investing money. Obviously, I could have done better, and that's always the goal. And so this is just my thoughts and advice generally. This is episode 1 of the wealth equation, which we'll now do every year. Maybe we don't do during the summer, but it should be really valuable. I'll have episodes like this where I'm talking, and then I'll have episodes like next week where we'll have, different professionals, advisors, whether it's tax, whether it's guys like Casey Baugh or Jeff Mendez or Jason Harris, will also be on the show. We can call this the show, right? A reality TV show, which always get better with time. TV shows are the opposite. Season 1's always the best. And so we'll jump in. The wealth equation, this week's episode of the wealth equation is back to the basics. These are going to be financial principles about money and investing that have withstood the test of time. And I'm going to use a bunch of different examples from 2025 and 100 years ago, people that have done really well with money, based on a lot of these principles. Some of these are my opinions. Some of these are just truths and math. Like always, want to speak to briefly just why am I doing this? Why are we taking the time to do this? Well, like always, we're a mission-driven company. We want to have massive impact. The reason why we believe and we want to go build a multi-billion-dollar company is so the table gets bigger. I was meeting with one of our new data analytics just an hour ago, and she is here because we continue to grow the company, and that fires me up. And so, like always, we want to have big impact. Specifically, as you think about your life and the whole person paradigm, there's the physical, which is the financial, which is what most people talk about in sales and in work and in career. Most people just talk about the money, which is one of 4 really important parts of our lives. But it's the most talked about. That's what we're going to spend our time in the wealth equation on in these episodes in this series. But there's the spiritual, which is purpose, the mental, which is personal development, and social emotional, which is relationships and people, which at the end of the day, you're not going to take your money with you after this life. You don't see a hearse you don't see a U-Haul behind a hearse. But money is super important, and it's transportable power. And so we want to help people not just make money, but to build actual wealth. I heard Jeff Mendez say this one time, a definition of culture is how we do things around here, or what we do around here. And specifically what all of you do, and your leaders do. And I feel like, we started Grit in 2020, but even when we were at GreenX, we always had a culture of investing. We all invested super heavy. And I'm going to speak to that today is most of our money, most of the time, I've always been cash poor because I invest almost all of my money. And so you see a lot of people, whether it's the senior leaders, whether it's with watches or cars or shoes, and you might think, oh, like those people are spending a lot of money. And they are, but it's a small fraction of what they're making, and they've invested millions of dollars. So their investments are paying for all of those things. And so what we absolutely don't want here at The Grit is to be your typical sales culture where people make lots of money and they spend lots of money. That's not cool. There's nothing cool about making $100,000 and going out to the next summer with zero and having nothing to show for it. I was with a guy who's been in the industry 15 years yesterday, and he's got nothing to show for it. In fact, he has lots of debt, and it's, some of it's his circumstances, but we don't want that for any of you. We want to help you make great money, and we want to help you be smart with it, particularly, and I'm going to speak to this, at your age, at this young age, where time is your best friend, and compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. And so when you go spend $100 on a pair of shoes, it's not $100, it's $1 million because you're only 19. And so we want to go get back to a culture of investing. And so what is the wealth equation? How do you get wealthy? Well, to put it simply, it's you spend less than you make and you invest the excess. You spend less than you make and you invest the excess. If we look at it in a formula, an equation, you have to make money to have money. In order to give, you have to have. And so it's really important to go get. So revenue, you look at it in a business. In business terms, we say revenue. For you and for your personal family office that you're building, your personal wealth, you have your income. Then you have your expenses. Your revenue minus your expenses is your net income. And so there's 2 ways to maximize your net income every single year. It's to either make more money or to spend less. And in doing so, you maximize your net income. From there, you should take your net income after your basic expenses, and you should invest all of it or most of it, and I'm going to speak to that, in appreciating assets, things that go up in value, like real estate or stocks or crypto historically. Unlike shoes or trucks or other things that don't appreciate, they depreciate. And so I want to be really clear, and I want to just hammer this point that income is not wealth. And I want to use a couple examples of both really good examples of people who have made tons of money and have no wealth, and people who haven't made as much money but have massive wealth. Some of these you guys are familiar with. You look at like an Allen Iverson. He made $154 million from the NBA. That's a massive exit, and he did it 25 years ago. So you're probably like 300 or 400 million in today's dollars. Additionally, he got another 60 million from endorsements like Reebok. Well, despite that, in 2012, a judge seized his bank accounts to pay for a $900,000 jewelry debt. His expenses exceeded $360,000 a month. It just got out of control. He didn't watch his spending, and he had absolutely nothing to show for it. In fact, he was negative. Lucky for Allen Iverson, in 2001, he signed a deal with Reebok that he got $800,000 a year lifetime, so he hasn't declared total bankruptcy yet. And in 5 years, he's going to get $32 million as a trust fund from Reebok. Good for Allen Iverson. He did a smart deal. Unlike him, you look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson made more than double because of inflation what Allen Iverson made. He made $400 to $500 million in his boxing career. He signed a deal. He was making $27 million per fight at the age of 20. So he also had time. He just wasn't smart with his money. He spent $2 million on a bathtub, $500K on limousines, $400K per month lifestyle. And in 2003, he filed for bankruptcy with $23 million in debt. So again, I want to emphasize it's not what you make, it's what you keep and how you invest it. Let me show you an example of the opposite. Tony Robbins talked about this guy, Theodore Johnson, at Business Mastery in August, and I thought it was super fascinating. Theodore Johnson started work for UPS in 1920, in the 1920s. He was hired as an entry-level driver and then worked his way into mid-level management. He never made more than $14,000 a year at his peak. In today's dollar, it's about $125,000 per year. So most of you on this call, a lot of you guys make more or about that, or maybe a little bit less than what he made. But when he started, he was making even less than that. Well, he made the decision that he was only ever going to live off 80% of his money. So he took whatever he made, and the 20% was never his. He invested 20% of it. He invested all of it into UPS stock, which worked really well for him because UPS obviously is what has done what it's done. And he retired in his 80s with a net worth of $70 million back then. $70 million in his 80s. So you're hundreds of millions of dollars today, and he gave it all to charity. And I'm sure he lived and did exactly what he wanted to. He said this: you don't have to make a fortune to build one. You just have to own productive assets and give them time. Well, Theodore Johnson was around 100 years ago. Let's use an example of today. Jason, my good buddy, he doesn't know I'm doing this. Hopefully he doesn't care. Is the absolute man. He was born in Amarillo, Texas, came from absolutely nothing. And post-college with a couple kids, he was making $60,000 a year at Edwards Jones. Jason just turned 40 this year. So this is 15 years ago. He started making right out of high school, right out of college, knocking doors for Edward Jones, hustling. He was making about 60 grand, but he hustled. He even started a company called Creative Gains because he was so creative with how he structured deals and how he house hacked, which we'll talk about house hacking, but a lot of you guys know exactly what that is. He did that, and today, Jason just turned 40 like a month or so ago, and he has a net worth of over $40 million. He's never had an exit. He's never had this big outcome. He's just been really smart with his money and invested consistently. And so now Jason can live the lifestyle that he wants to, exactly how he wants to, just like we've heard forever about Todd Peterson, how he didn't go spend all of his money. In fact, he gave a lot of it away and he invested almost all of it. And so it really is about this, you guys. It's maximize your revenue, minimize your expenses. That will create the most amount of net income. Invest it in appreciating assets. And I want to just call out 3 annual key indicators that I pay attention to that encourage you guys to as well. Shout out, not a sponsor. Maybe we get them to. Pure coconut water. Saw it in the LA airport a couple years ago. We've been hooked ever since. 3 annual key indicators. The first is maximizing net income. We talked about that. I am a capitalist. I am coin driven. I love making money. I think it's a great scoreboard in some ways of how much value you're adding in the business world. You want to make more money, figure out ways to add more value. And then spend less. And specifically, I think that deleted actually. There was a line there that called out some apps to track your expenses. Or maybe it's on the next one. I think it's on the next one. Forgive me. So make more and spend less. And if it's not on the next one, I'll just call it out here. No, it is on it. It is on it. Next, it's on another slide. We'll get back to it. Second is be aware and track your net worth. So what is your net worth? Most people confuse net worth with income. Your income is not your net worth. Your net worth, in fact, let me just show you the basic accounting equation. that they teach in school is A equals L plus E. Your assets are equal to your liabilities plus your equity. So in this example, you buy a $600,000 house, you put a $500,000 loan on it or note on it, you put in $100K of equity, your asset, your $600,000 house, is equal to $600K because you have a $500,000 note and $100K of equity in it. So, all you math whizzes out there, how do you solve for E? Well, you minus the L. So, your net worth, your equity, net worth, is equal to your assets minus your liabilities. So, this is your net worth. And so, track it. Be aware of it. I don't shoot a goal. I don't have a net worth goal because I'm not motivated by my net worth. But I'm aware of it. And I think it's good to track and understand, cool, what are my assets, my tangible assets? Time is our biggest asset, but it's not tangible. Your assets, your homes, your investments, minus your liabilities on those things, which we're going to talk about, is your equity or your net worth. So when you hear about Tom Brady's net worth is 500 million or whatever it is, or Michael Jordan's is billions, what they're talking about is the E. So their assets minus their liability. And lastly, what motivates me, and I've always been motivated by, and I encourage people to drive towards, is set goals around dollars invested. And so that's why we do the Grit investment clubs. We want people to buy a home, and then we want people to go invest $100,000. Go figure out a way to get $100,000 invested, because we know what that looks like. And I'm not talking about hitting home runs. In fact, most home runs, if you swing for the fences, almost always you'll strike out. And I have seen and been a part of very few, thankfully, so many guys lose hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars trying to swing for home runs, especially at our age, whether you're 18, 19, whether you're in your 20s. I'm 31. I want to hit singles and doubles. And if I do that all my whole life, I'm going to have massive wealth because I have time on my hand. And so set a goal, start investing in appreciating assets, singles and doubles. Try to get to 100K. Once you get to 100K, try to get to 200K and 300K. And it may take you more or less time, but I love setting goals in general, and I love setting goals around dollars invested. It's really motivating to me, and so I encourage you guys to do the same. A side note on this is we're talking about money, and at Tony Robbins, again, in Business Mastery, they brought on Peter Mallouk, who runs this massive finance company in New York, billionaire, and he was talking about this and investing your money. And specifically for me, I always talk about money should go two places, essentially. It should go into investments and should go into experiences. And I've always used this analogy where the money comes in and I try to get it out as soon as I can into good investments. And life's not about accumulating wealth. The reason why we invest is so we can do the things that we want to do, give in meaningful ways, and so that you have more opportunities, so that you don't have to go do anything because you've set up a financial foundation to put yourself in a position where you can do what you want when you want. That's why we invest, so that we grow and so that we can give massively. And life is about creating memories and experiences with people who you love. And so he told a story, Peter Mallouk, about, he had this college kid who came up to him after a seminar and was like, "Hey, you'll be so proud of me. All my friends went to Europe this summer, but I took $3,000, and instead of going to Europe, I put it in the S&P 500. And he said, "Hey, go sell your stock immediately and go on the trip." Because it's not just about accumulating wealth and being smog, sitting on your gold coins. Life's about having experiences. Now, there's excessive experiences, and there's too much, and you're spending too much as a percent of income. But go on the trip to Europe. Take your wife on her forever dream trip. Do the things, because ultimately life, at the end of it, is about the memories and the moments that we created. And so just wanted to plug that. We're talking about investments, but that doesn't mean you should go live on beans and not do, live on ramen and never spend money going to Hawaii. Do those things. Give meaningfully all along the way. That's what it's all about. Let's talk about foundation first. So there's investing, which people get all excited about. They're all jazzed up. But before we get into offensive investing, we've got to make sure we have the foundation first. Defensive before offensive. And so specifically, I talk about 4 things with this foundation. One is understand your income and your expenses. And this is what I was talking about. You can do that on a Google sheet, which is what I do, and I use Monarch, which is just an app and a website to pull my transaction in, and I run my own accounting. Or you can do it. There used to be an app called Mint. A lot of these are the same. YNAB is like your budgeting. You own your own budget or something like that. Pocket Guard, Good Budget. These are the ones. ChatGPT, which, by the way, should be your best friend in all things finance, compounding, anything ever. Talk to Chat. Ask him or her or it. But understand your expenses. How much did you spend on DoorDash last year? Well, if you don't know, you can't improve it. If you have no idea what your expenses are, it'll be excessive, but neither did Allen Iverson. So you got to understand your expenses, and you got to understand your revenue. You are running your own business. It is the Danny Facer Inc. Danny Blue Skies Inc. And you've got to understand your finances. You've got to understand how much money you're bringing in and how much is going out, and how do I maximize and minimize. So once you understand that, and you understand your expenses, you've got to be liquid. You can't run out of money. I wish we had like the bill's got to be paid. If it sounds like a meme or a GIF or a GIF, however you say it, you should come in right there. Don't run out of money. We've had guys that have made tons of money, but have invested too aggressively, and then they need advances because they put hundreds of thousands of dollars in a deal, and now, lo and behold, they're a month out from the summer or whatever it is. And so be smart with your money. Invest heavily, but before you do that, foundation first, make sure you have 6 to 12 months. Maybe it's 3 months if you're comfortable and you know what it really is based on your preference. But if you know your expenses and you know you spend $5,000 a month, well, and then you're okay, I want to have 10 months, we'll have $50,000 in the bank at all times. And it's easy. That way, if you tore your ACL and you can't go out for a summer, or you got fired from your job, you're good for as long as you can be. And so again, foundation first. 3 is what will be your biggest tax, what will be your biggest expense in your whole life, especially if you let it be, it will be taxes. It's, whether it's 20 to 45% of your income, there's just no single category that you're going to spend more money in as an expense than taxes. And so you need to be smart with minimizing taxes, which is why next week we're talking about taxes. I'm going to bring on a tax professional. Particularly now, if you made more than $20,000 or $25,000 in 2025, meaning that's what's been paid to you, you should have, and especially if you're a direct seller, which is one of the benefits of being a 1099 for tax reasons, direct seller employee, is you can have your own business and run your expenses through your business, which is a massive benefit. If you're doing freelance work as a videographer, you can have your own business and run all of your expenses like office, like internet, like per diem per day. When you're out in the summer, like mileage, all through your business. And so if you made $20,000 or $25,000 or more, you should create an LLC, which we will have a tax professional on that can help you. Or if your uncle or your brother knows a tax professional, have them help you create an LLC. You have to do it before, I believe, December 15th. And so that's why we're doing this now. And that's why next week, the next week is taxes, because it's pressing. And so, minimize your taxes. We're going to talk about that in depth next week, but that's foundational. And lastly is be consumer debt free. The religion that I participate in, some of the leaders said there should be 3 things that you have debt on. And I've tried to live this way. 1 is a house. 2 is education. And 3 is sometimes a business. Everything else is consumer debt. That's my opinion. So I've never had a car loan. I don't do car loans. I don't buy cars that I have to do a car loan on if I can. Now, I understand that not everybody's in the same position, but if you can't afford to pay cash for a $30,000 car, maybe don't buy a $30,000 car. Again, these are my opinions. They're not facts. but I just don't do car loans. Additionally, obviously, credit card debts or anything else is get out of debt as soon as you can, and consumer debt free, obviously, and then debt free as soon as you can, specifically student loans. You know, if you have a mortgage at anywhere from 3 to even 6%, like mortgage is your best friend, leverage is your best friend in investing. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about debt, which just accrues interest. So that's foundational. Foundation first are those 4 things. Now, once you have your bases covered, here's what I recommend doing. I'm a big believer in buying a house. I've seen all my friends do it for a decade. I've done it, and I've done really well. Now, people will say, oh, dude, it's not the time to buy a house in Utah or wherever you are. They were saying that 6 years ago. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. All I know is I'd rather have the money go to me than to my landlord. Now, if you don't know where you're going to be, or maybe you're in a transitionary period, maybe it doesn't make sense to buy a house. Like I said, these take it for what it's worth. Hopefully it's worth something. But I'm a big believer in buying a house, trying to house hack, especially if you can get a house if you're married with a basement. If you're single, buy a house with 3 or 4 bedrooms, rent out the rooms. And we have guys do that every single year. It fires me up. In a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about buying a house. We're going to have a mortgage expert on and getting into your first house. There's tons of incentives. And so big believer, and that's why we incentivize buying a house. Second is do your Roth IRA. Now there's nothing sexy about a Roth IRA. I like a Roth IRA, which is Roth is the type of IRA. IRA is individual retirement account. There's Roth, there's traditional, there's 401k, which acts as a retirement account. There's a SEP IRA, which just means more. With traditional SEP 401k, you write it off, so you don't pay taxes on it now. But then when you ever access it, whether it's for first-time home buying, education, medical emergency, or when you access it after 59 and a half years old, you'll pay taxes on the principal. So the original $6,000, which is the maximum for an IRA per year, maybe it's $6,500 now, and all of the interest. So it's significant when you pull it out. What I have always liked the sound of more, and what I have done, especially with Roth IRAs, if you make above a certain amount, you can't do a Roth IRA. Now you can do a traditional and backdoor it into a Roth, and if you want to do that, you can, ChatGPT could probably help you do it. Vanguard, you can set this stuff up to. And it really is that simple. You go to Vanguard, you go set this stuff up. I was going to show it, but we don't have to. Roth IRA, you put it in and you don't write it off, so you pay taxes on the $6,500, but then you never pay tax on it again. So all of the gains that you have, you never pay taxes on again, which, like I said, I'm a proponent of. Third, after you do that, you invest in assets. Real estate, market, other appreciating assets, private equity, VC, crypto, whatever it is. That's how you create wealth. And we're going to talk more specifically about investing, but just to touch on this, and this to be aware, there is a massive difference between passive and active investing. Passive is you give your money and you close your eyes, like investing in this S&P 500. Now, even within investing in the market, you can do it on your own, on Vanguard or Fidelity. It's really easy. It's really easy to set up a Roth IRA or traditional, like it's just not hard. And you can invest in whatever you want within those entities. I highly recommend, if you're going to invest in the market, investing in the best 500 companies in America. It's called the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's 500 companies. You can do that passively, which is you put it in there and it just sits. You can have a wealth advisor, which all of you guys have friends and dads and aunts and uncles who do that. And that is active investing. You can do the same in real estate. You can go buy a house hack, rent out home, be a landlord, which a lot of people really like and have made tons of money in. Or you can be passive, which is what I prefer, which I used to have homes that I was a landlord and I managed. And now I have chosen that I don't want to do those things. I want to passively invest and spend all my time in our business and with my family and in hobbies and doing other things. And so I don't active invest in almost anything. There's not a right or wrong. You don't get a higher return necessarily in one or the other. It's just preference. And it's just what you want to do. Now, some is better for some situations, and so you'll just have to look at your situation, but it really is preference and what you want to do. like I said, I passively invest. When you invest, you guys have heard, and a lot of you are super familiar with compounding interest. So I want to use a couple examples to hammer this point with you. Time is your best friend. Time is your best friend. If you are 20 or 25 or 30, you have a massive advantage over your parents because they have way less time for their money to grow. So I want to show you some examples of this. This is a simple one. You can get $100 or you can give a penny and have it invest every day. What's better? Well, or $10,000. You can see by day 15, you only have 163 bucks. So you should have taken the $10,000. But what happens because of compounding is it continues to double, and by day 30, you don't have twice as much as you had at 163. You have a big multiple. You have $5.3 million if a penny doubled every day for a month. That's crazy. That's the power of compounding. Said differently, Warren Buffett just retired from Berkshire Hathaway. I want you to take a look at his net worth. We all know that, yeah, he's worth $100 billion at 92. At 30, he became a millionaire. Now, a lot of you guys are millionaires or are younger than 30, so you're ahead of Warren Buffett. Let me repeat that. If you're not 30 or you are a millionaire and you're under 30, you're ahead of Warren Buffett. You can have more wealth than Warren Buffett. You just have to be really smart, and you have to make money and invest it in appreciating assets. And so you look at this. At 37, his net worth was only 10 million, and at 52, it was only 376 million. Not even a billionaire until he was 56. Now, not even a billionaire. Billion's obviously a lot of money. The point is this is the power of compounding. Want you guys to see a real life example of this. So I'm going to go here, bring this here. No, here. Okay. Can everyone see this? Don't know what the ads are going on with the ski lessons, type vibe. You can do this here. You can do this in ChatGPT. It's really simple, and I want you to emphasize the principle of compounding. So we're going to use the same dollar amount. We're going to say, let's say, what if we invested $1 million? Well, let's say you invested $1 million and you're 40 over 20 years. So you're going to invest, let's say you're 40, you're like, you know what? I'm going to get serious about investing. I spent all my money. I did bottle service every weekend. I made tons of money and I had absolutely nothing to show for it. Now I'm going to get serious in investing now that I'm 40. Cool. I'm going to invest $50,000 a year and I'm going to let it grow. I'm going to do that for 20 years, which is $1 million. Oh, sorry. Annual addition 0. This is just an example. This is called Money Chimp. I like this website. ChatGPT could do the exact same thing. 20 years, and let's say I do well. I get a good return. I get a 12% annualized interest rate. Cool. 50,000, 20 years, you put in $1 million. That $1 million turns into, nope, forgive me, 50,000. Current principal, forgive me. Let me switch this. Current principal is zero. I'm going to put in 50 grand a year for 20 years, and I have $4 million. Sweet. I put in $1 million. I have $4 million. And I did that over 20 years. Everyone's following. Well, what if I did the same amount of money, but instead of starting at 40, I started at 20? Well, if I do the same $1 million, I don't have to invest $50,000 a year. I only have to invest 25 because I have 40 years. Okay. Well, if I invest $25,000 for 40 years instead of 20, and it grows at the same 12%, now I haven't added any more money. It's $1 million to $1 million. So you may think, oh, 20 years, maybe it'll double. Instead of 4 million, you'll have 21 million. So it's 5x more just because you had 40 years instead of 20. I can say it a number of different times, a number of different ways. Compounding is your best friend. And so with this, I want to make sure we leave enough time for questions. I want to really emphasize the importance of investing while you're young. so many people in our industry make lots of money and they have absolutely nothing to show for it because, like Allen Iverson, they think it's always going to be there, and it just might not be. And so invest your money, invest in appreciating assets, and the biggest thing is just don't lose the money. Don't put it in things because you have to have a lot of wins to make up for a single loss. We just did a deal that is coming back on Friday, and we got a 10% return. Wasn't what we had hoped it would be. We wanted for way more, but it was 2.5 years and it was 10% annualized, just about. So it was 9.5 IRR, and we didn't lose our money, and that's a win. It's a single. We're going to take that and we're going to invest it into more things. So before we get to questions, wanted to show 2 things. Want to challenge every single one of you guys to read a book a month on finance. In 2025, it's irresponsible not to be educated. There's just so many resources out there. Every single one of you guys have what kings paid in their time millions of dollars to have, which is a full library. We just have it on our phones. And so the first book that I want to challenge, and we'll do in a couple episodes, we'll talk about this book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I think it's 75 pages. It's probably an hour on Audible, by George S. Clausen. It's a great book. Talks about principles of investing. Don't make diamonds with the brick makers. Don't make bricks with the diamond makers. Talks about a ton of really awesome investing principles and does it in a really interesting way. And so that's the book. We'll check in the first episode in December, and we'll give you a new book for December, Richest Man in Babylon. This is what the upcoming schedule looks like. So next week, we're going to do taxes with a tax professional. This could obviously change. The week of Thanksgiving, right before, we're going to talk about giving and gratitude and giving to be rich with some really key examples. Corbin Church, so our gala week, to kick off our gala week, December 2nd at iHub, which is on Freedom here in Provo. Corbin, across from Alpine or whatever the thing is called down there. Corbin Church Real Estate Night at iHub. Corbin is a professor at BYU, has absolutely crushed in his career, and reveres door-to-door sales and buying houses. He thinks everyone should do door-to-door because it knows what he can do to get young people ahead. And so he's going to speak. He does it to his classes every single year. He spoke to us a couple years ago and crushed. So Corbin Church will be that week. Then we're going to talk about first-time home buying, and then we're going to have Jason on to talk about house hacking. So to finish, over the last 20 minutes or so or less, want to get some questions. So if you pop into the chat, go ahead and fire off some questions. Happy to answer anything and everything. And if there's not questions, we can just close, which is totally great. Richest Man in Babylon, Blue Skies, thank you very much. Let's see. How much do I have invested is an interesting question, Alec. I have in hard assets, some version of 3, 4, 5 million, and at the current value. And then, obviously the last couple of years we've invested everything back into the company. And so, with Mira, who knows? But yeah, been investing for a long time. And now I think most of my investment that I have is not original capital. I'm now getting the benefit of time where a lot of the money that I've invested is now coming back and I'm just rolling. And so I think I've made more now on my investments than I have originally put in. I've been investing since I started making good money in 2016. So almost a decade. And I'm seeing the fruits of that. Where can I put my money to start compounding? It's exactly what we said. It depends on the dollar amount. If you went and made $300,000 or $400,000, doing $100,000 syndicate or buying a fourplex, based on your preference of active versus passive, is a great place to put your money. If you went out and you can only invest $5,000, then the market is a great place to put it because there's no minimum. You can invest $100 in the market. You don't have to have $100,000 to start investing. And so a lot of this is just starting to work the muscle of investing, just like simultaneously you should be working the muscle of giving. So simultaneously invest and give. To invest into the S&P 500, Kaimani, I actually work with somebody, so I don't use an app. I have Robinhood that I bought a bit of Traeger when it was at its low, and so I do some of that just through Robinhood. Otherwise, Vanguard is where we have our retirement accounts here at Grit, 401k and other things. They're cheap fees, really good platform. Highly recommend Vanguard. And I think it's VOO is the ticker for the SP 500 on that. It's a great place to put your money. If you put it there and you do it consistently, you dollar cost average it, which is just buying all the time. You're going to buy high and low, and over time, you're going to absolutely crush. There hasn't been, I think, a 8-year time period ever where the market's been down at any given point from now until 8 years at any given point. Maybe it's 10. The point is the market's going to do this, and it's going to go up and down, and it will, over time, it'll go up and it'll average 10 or 12%. So the market's a great place to put your money. It's a great question, McKay. Should you put it in traditional savings or keep it liquid, or should you put it in the market? It depends on how liquid you need to be. It's a great question. I would never have your savings or your emergency fund just in your checking account. Because you can have it in a Goldman Sachs savings account, an American Express savings account, right now earning 3.5, I think, 3.2-ish%. So you might as well have that. You might as, if you're going to have $50,000, you might as well be earning, $1,500 a year on it, if you can, which is an extra 100, and $20 or so a month. And so it's just preference again, or maybe you're like, no, I absolutely have to have it in my checking. A lot of this is what you, and if you're married, what your spouse prefer. The market can dip. The market can drop 20%. And so if you have 50 and then you have it to 40 and you have to sell, well, you just lost 10 grand. And so I don't keep liquids. I don't keep my liquid cash in the market. Market to me is a long-term investment. I don't day trade. I don't buy stuff for short term. If I'm going to put it there, I want to leave it there and never touch it until I eventually do. Marcus Case, the guy. Marcus will probably be on at some point. Has helped me with a bunch of real estate deals. Would you invest in it if you are invested in crypto or you invested in? So if I was to invest in crypto, which I have some, and at one point I had a number of Bitcoins, which I sold them, probably shouldn't have. We've invested a lot of money into the business. I would be in Bitcoin. The altcoins, you look at the NFTs, which if you ever want to feel good about, if you're ever feeling bad about your day, I think there was an NFT that sold for $50 million. It's now worth 10 grand. I don't understand them. Bitcoin, I don't really understand, which is why I don't invest into it. But if I was to invest in crypto, which I'm sure I will more than I am currently today, it would be in Bitcoin. Let me take a few more of these. Yeah, Kramer Kid, great call out to get a credit card. You want to start building credit and use your credit card just like a debit card, meaning the debit card is the worst financial instrument there is. You get no interest. You have to pay it off immediately. You're just swiping cash. You should get a credit card. You should build credit. You should get points. I love the Citi Double Cash card when I was younger. I now have the American Express Reserve card because we travel a lot and we like being in the Delta Lounge. And there's a $550 fee or whatever it is, and we get our money's worth 10x because of all the things that we do with it. But we did that now. I didn't originally. I had a Bank of America. My first one was Discovery. You just want to start building credit and start getting money off your money. You want your money to make babies. And with a credit card, it does. You spend money, you make money. Now, it's not that much, but it's not insignificant over time. Where can you find a tax professional? We'll have one on next week. A lot of us work with Kaizen Tax. They're down south, probably in like Springville, with Tracy Smith and Ted. They've been awesome. We worked with Jason Wild for a long time, who doesn't do it anymore, so that's why we switched. If you want to work with Tracy, you totally can. We'll connect you next week. Or your managers most likely work with them, so you can reach out to them. If you don't know somebody, if you do know somebody and you trust them, anybody that who you trust or who inspires you is working with a tax professional, so you can also just ask them. And yes, Tyler, liquid cash, put it in something that gives you interest, whether it's monthly dividends or a savings account. You just want something steady Eddie. Yeah, Hudson, it's a great question about monthly income. And so this is one of the reasons why we started doing monthly back ends to smooth out expenses. So I track liquidity. So not only I'm aware of my revenue and my expenses, but I try to forecast, okay, what will my liquidity be? And you do that based on what do you think you're going to make? And what is the timing of that? And if you haven't done this job specifically for long enough to know, your manager has. And they can say, cool, if you're going to go make 150 grand, this is how much you're going to get up front. This is how much is going to come in the fall, give or take. And this is how much will be, at the final back ends. And so it's just about forecasting it out. It's just about understanding the timing of it. And that's what we do with, like, for example, Zach Seeger every year is you say, cool, how much money do you have in the bank? What are your monthly back ends? Okay, so you're going to get this much. Okay, so you can invest, 3, 4, or 500 grand, whatever it is, and still be whatever the number is. The point's not about the dollar amount. The point is understanding the cash flow and then being able to invest the excess while still having a base of 6 months and not getting close, because especially you start making more money, like you just probably don't want to have it as close as you previously had. I know your tolerance grows in that way. Take a couple more questions. For my personal emergency fund is completely fluctuated. Again, we put a ton of money into the business. And so now we try to keep more cash. At different points, it's been like no months. It's been like I basically have no money. At different points, it's been a year. I like at least 6 months to 12 months, like I said. Jake England, great question. Yes, you can still set up an LLC even if you have been paid. You can just retroactively run it through your business. It's cleaner if your business gets paid and if you use a business bank card. But if you don't, my experience has it's not the end of the world, and you can still do it just fine. Even if you don't have a business account yet or a business card yet. And so absolutely still set up an LLC. It will save you so much money in taxes because you can run your expenses through your business instead of it just all being personal income, and your business just gets taxed differently. So, Crimer Kid, as far as questions, big fact that made you hard today, there's been so many. We may be teasing out another podcast at some point, and we'll speak to more of that, of how I think and how I believe. But ultimately, it's been the people on the journey, surrounded by awesome people. The reason why I have this knowledge, which again is hopefully helpful, is because of the people that I've surrounded myself with. And I went and got an education at BYU. I did finance. It was awesome. And I've always just been fascinated with this stuff. I still am. I'm about to sign up for Harvard OPM, which is, a big investment of time and money, because I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. So financial teacher, listen to in my life is the people that I spend time with. I get tons of financial advice from, and not even financial advice, it's nuggets from Casey, from Todd, from different podcasts. I don't have and it's funny, you have different mentors for different things. I don't have a financial mentor that I go to for stuff. I've always kind of done it on my own, and worked and bounced ideas off different people. And then I've kind of just gone and self-educated, which you all can do and we all have access to. The Grit Equity Program is just our company. So we put a bunch of our money back in, and when I say back in, we just pay ourselves way less today because we're growing Mira, and we're really excited about doing that. So kids will love you. I think that's where we'll wrap. Hopefully that was super helpful. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, I've done this multiple ways in different years. We're excited about this setup. Again, thought the team has done an awesome job. Dawson was a little nervous about being the production, driver. I thought you did a great job, Dawson. You absolutely crushed with the switching back and forth and everything. And so, yeah, guys, really excited for next week to talk taxes. Hope this is valuable. We'll continue to do it for as long as it is valuable. And so stay tuned for next week. Appreciate you guys.